This was Mosul before the Islamic State. A bustling, vibrant city with 2.5 million residents. Shops, markets, eateries, afternoons on the riverside. Life went by to the muezzin chants from the Al-Nuri mosque. And our story begins here, in this bustling, vibrant city in 2014. A big construction company based out of Baghdad wins a big contract to build a new stadium and a huge set of apartments. The project is massive and they need workers. Among them, there are Indians who leave behind villages and families, all of them driven by the need for a good job and the chance to earn some extra money to send back home. And this is Mosul today. This is what one of West Asia's toughest urban battles has left on the ground. Rubble, smashed cars, trapped civilians, pain and death.
After months of guerrilla warfare, the Iraqi army managed to reach less than 100 meters from the most important symbol of the Islamic State, the Al-Nuri Mosque in the old city of Mosul. It was the first time that both soldiers and officers truly savored the taste of victory. Announcing the defeat of the Islamic State from the very place where it was given birth would have certainly had an impact on the few remaining terrorists. But before reaching the place where Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi declared the beginning of the Caliphate, the building exploded. Today, there is nearly nothing left of the 800-year-old mosque. The Islamic State fighters who were barricaded inside the building blew it up. The terror outfit blamed the coalition forces, but videos show clearly that the explosion came from inside. Once again, the Islamic State had shown its real face. Death before capitulation, destruction and violence until the very end. Even if this meant blowing up a place sacred to the very Muslim religion they claim to represent. The reasons behind the Islamic State decision to blow the Al-Nuri mosque up will perhaps remain forever unknown. Some say it was a declaration of defeat. Others say it was to impede to the Iraqi government to use the holy place to declare victory in front of the world. What is clear though is that there is nothing left of the entire Al-Nuri mosque, a place where once thousands of people came to pray.
I am standing right now in front of the very famous minaret, the leaning minaret, adjacent to the Al-Nuri mosque. It is here, in 2014, that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi proclaimed the beginning of the so-called Islamic State, one of perhaps the most violent terrorist organizations active during the century. And it is here that today, in July 2017, the military history of the Islamic State comes to an end. Daniele Pagani and journalist Martin Aim from the Al-Nuri mosque in Mosul for WION. Iraq is nearly 4,000 kilometers from India. Naturally, the battle to free Mosul from the Islamic State would not have played out as intensely on Indian TV screens or newspapers as it did on Arab media. But a thin line, a thin red line did unite Mosul with India. In fact, it would be true to say that the line stretched all the way from Punjab to Mosul, touching the lives of 39 Indian workers. We saw them in Mosul, working on massive construction projects, and we can imagine them walking around the streets, stealing a glimpse of the city in the little leisure time afforded. Then, something unexpected happens. The Islamic State moves in and captures Mosul. Some of the workers manage to escape to Erbil, the capital of Iraqi Kurdistan, where they are lucky to find safety. But 39 Indians are trapped. The Islamic State captures them. This is when they disappear. They have been missing ever since. No video, no message to the family, no ransom requests. A complete, total and worrisome silence. The Indian community still living in Erbil remembers well those days. I spoke to some of them. Take a look.
Mosul, once the de facto capital of the Islamic State in Iraq, stands now liberated. The city is not anymore in the grip of the Islamic State. But now it's time to come to terms with a grim reality. Hundreds of thousands of people abandoned their houses, running away from hammering airstrikes. Thousands of civilians lost their lives or are trapped underneath the rubble. In this humanitarian tragedy, there is also a little bit of India. In 2014, 39 Indian workers ended up in the Islamic State's hands. There is no news from them ever since.
I really feel bad this thing happened. What happened not only with Indians, there is so many friends also for me. They are staying in Mosul. They are so many time coming in bazaar. It's really bad thing happened. But that moment, I heard that 39 people they are missing. They captured the arrested by the IS, and not only Indians, other nationality also, same like Turkish. And after a few days, I heard that they relieved. But and after that, I didn't ask and I didn't watch the relief is finished. And that time, Indian consul also helping the people. Those people go. They like to go back to India, they can go and they collect the ticket and they go back. But that time we are not going. We are staying here because I'm staying with my family. If I go back to India, what I'll do? I have to work. I have to fight with daily life. So the life also, and finally I'm more comfortable because I know the language, same like the Kurdish people.
And that time when this happened, because the Islamic State also came very close to Erbil, there was a moment.
Yeah.
Do you remember that moment?
Yeah,
What do you remember?
I remember it's suddenly around 9:30, between 10 in morning. That time, oh my God, all bazaar is become empty. No one is bazaar, and I'm sitting in this shop. I'm sitting with my wife, and so my wife told me, "Okay, let's go home. Everybody is moving." My boss told me, Ratan, if something happened wrong, this is the address. You have to go to Shaklawa, and Shaklawa from we'll go Turkey or another place. We are waiting the television, watching the television, waiting for what is the new. It's near come to. It will take 45 minutes. Far from the Erbil, from Bazar to it's called Gomrik. The one is the place. They are coming close, and finally. It's very good news with Peshmerga. It's really helpful. They are brave soldier. They are helping and they are fighting with IS soldier and they free the Erbil.
Some of the Indian working in Mosul managed to escape before the Islamic State could capture them. They reached Erbil, a safe spot in war-torn Iraq.
Erbil is the capital city of the northern region of Kurdistan in Iraq, and this is where some of the Indian workers who were working in Mosul and building a stadium in Mosul and a complex of apartments managed, fortunately, to escape before the Islamic State reached and conquered the city. Unfortunately, 39 of them did not manage to escape, and the Islamic State abducted. They're missing since then.
We can see here behind me some of the apartments where the Indians reached when they escaped Mosul, and these apartments are some of the apartments where still many belonging to the Indian community in Kurdistan do work and live.
Not all of them were so lucky. The 39 Indians still missing were last seen working to build the new stadium in the western part of Mosul. In the Bab al-Sinjar neighborhood, the stadium lies in the western battered part of the city. Indians still living in Erbil still remember that moment.
जो आप अभी पूछ रहे हो उसके बारे में हमने पहली बार सुना है कि 2014 में यानी जो मूसल में इंडियन आदमी जो मतलब आप बता रहे हो गायब हुए, उनके बारे में हमें पास कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं थी। और 2014 में हालांकि मैं अभी फ़िलहाल यहाँ पे आया हूँ, मेरे को 3 साल हुआ है, इतना मेरे को नॉलेज भी नहीं था मूसल में क्या हुआ किधर क्या हुआ, आपने बताया। लेकिन सडनली बहुत अफसोस की बात है कि हमारे इंडियन के रहने वाले पीपल है जो अभी मूसल से गायब हो चुके हैं और अभी हमें पता चल रहा है, तो बहुत मतलब दुख की बात है सर।
Before we are afraid, now is the ISS is going lower than lower. Now is good to situation here. Before you get very afraid when is the ISS here. Now is good for Indians. We will missing for the 39 Indians. We not found anything about them. You don't know about them. What is their alive or this thing. In here government also not responding. Indian government is someone is coming. They are looking for this thing.
What do you think? Do you think these 39 Indian workers maybe are alive? What do you hope? What do you think?
I hope think so. This is not possible. They allow. If you allow, they will be contact them home or some other peoples, whoever they knows. Maybe I don't know about them. What is happens? It will be no whoever with them or whoever contact them. Them family are suffering for them. Is the very problem for them.
In 2014, India did not have a proper consulate in Erbil, but the Baghdad embassy set up an operation room to closely monitor the situation at the same time.
Behind me there is the Indian consulate in Erbil, the capital city of Iraqi Kurdistan. This premise was established in 2016 and it was triggered by the event of the abduction of the 39 Indian workers who disappeared from Mosul in 2014 in the hands of the Islamic State. The consulate is working alongside the Iraqi and Kurdish authorities to try to understand where these 39 Indians could be, if they are alive, if they are in Iraq, if they are in Mosul still perhaps alive underneath the rubble, or if they have been dispatched and sold to Syria.
Their families, mostly in Punjab, are still hoping for the best. They say hope is the last thing to die. But such a long silence is no good news and leaves space to the worst fears. Thousands of kilometers from Iraq, there are families missing their brothers, husbands and sons. Indians who left the country to build a future and earn some money to send back home. This story throws light on working conditions of Indian nationals in West Asia, a place where safety is not to be taken for granted.
The 39 Indian workers who got abducted in 2014 by the Islamic State were working in the construction sector, like many other Indian citizens do. There are 4 million Indian citizens across West Asia. Many of them are working in the construction sector, and unfortunately their story is notorious, but it is a sad one. They often get exploited, they don't get good salaries. In Kurdistan, for instance, if they are lucky, they get $500 a month for a very long working day. And if they are lucky and they can do some more hours, perhaps they can gather $100 or $200 more. So this is the story of the many Indian workers in West Asia, leaving everything behind, their families behind. And in the case of the 39 Indians, they were not able to return because the Islamic State conquered Mosul and they could not escape the terrorist organization. Daniele Pagani from Erbil for WION. I think about their families back home in India, concerned and anxious about what happened to their brothers, husbands or sons. I think about these hard-working people leaving their homes thousands of kilometers behind. I think about the courage underlying the choice they made to travel overseas, of the tough lives they live, of ill treatment by employers. I see them in the many workers I come across when I travel to the West Asia, dressed in simple clothes, a flight ticket in their hands as they try to figure out where to board the plane. It strikes me every time that this is perhaps the first time many of them have left the security of their village to travel out. I think about the presents they carry whenever they travel back home to visit families in India. I move around Mosul for days. I speak to people, soldiers and intelligence officers. They are all very helpful, but most of them are not from Mosul. Many of Mosul's citizens fled the city when the Islamic State arrived. I find the University Lake Towers complex and the new stadium. It is here that the 39 Indians were working. I visit other places to get a better sense of what could have befallen them. I meet some members of the Iraqi intelligence, and what I find out is not reassuring.
The Iraqi army defeated the Islamic State in Mosul, but despite victory, the second largest city in Iraq faces a humanitarian crisis. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their relatives, their houses, their hopes. They live in refugee camp without knowing what their future will be. In this humanitarian crisis, there is a bit of India. 39 workers disappeared from Mosul in 2014 when the Islamic State conquered the city.
Till 15th of June 2014, he was talking to me and telling me those people are saying that we will send you India, but the thing is this, your government or anybody else should talk to us, then only we will send you.
They were construction workers. They came to Mosul to work in major civilian and housing projects. Close to the University of Mosul in the Jamia district of the city, there is a lake tower complex. Hundreds of apartments meant for students and teachers of one of the largest Iraqi universities.
I am inside the city of Mosul in the Jamia district, and behind me there is the University Lake Towers complex. This is where the 39 Indian workers who got abducted by the Islamic State in 2014 were working. What we know from local sources is that the Islamic State, when they conquered the city, they also took control over this area and they started dismantling the building in order to sell all the material, the cement, the iron and the steel which was here. We're of course traveling by our imagination, but it's not too far to think that perhaps the Islamic State used those Indian laborers who were here in this very place in order to help them to dismantle the building and sell them to people coming from outside, mostly from Syria and from other small enterprises who profited and benefited out of the Islamic State stealing all the material in this complex.
Sources within the intelligence told us that the Islamic State used foreign workers to dig tunnels and steal all the construction material possible. When food became rare, even for Islamic State terrorists, some enslaved people may have possibly been worked to death. There is another place in Mosul where Indians were seen working, a stadium which lies within the western part of the city, in the Bab Sinjar neighborhood.
Behind me, you can see the stadium in which the 39 Indians were seen working. They were not alone. There were many other workers from many other countries, but these 39 Indians could not manage to escape in 2014 when the Islamic State conquered the city of Mosul. The structure is unfinished. They were still working when the Islamic State came, and it lies now within a pile of rubble, which is the western part of the city of Mosul.
Hard to define Western Mosul a city. Everything is destroyed. There is no one around, and the smell of thousands of corpses buried underneath the rubble is pungent and persistent. The few people we meet look like ghosts, exhausted and traumatized by months of constant battle. If the 39 Indian citizens remained in Mosul throughout the war, hopes of finding them alive are feeble at best. Finding their remains would at least help their families to know what happened, putting an end to their constant state of anxiety. But given the situation, this too will be an extreme challenge.
In order to reach this point where I am standing, we have been driving through at least, I would say, 1 kilometer, and everything is destroyed. Houses are grounded. There is nothing which is left standing. This is how the old city of Mosul, the western part of Mosul, looks like. And it'll take ages for the Iraqi government to put this city back on track. Daniele Pagani and journalist Martin Aim from Mosul for WION.
When VK Singh returns to India, the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj briefs the assembled media on the information he has brought back. The 39 Indian workers could have been taken to the Badoush jail, 20 kilometers north to Mosul. The ministry says the Iraqi government has informed them that access to Badoush is currently not possible due to fighting. But my sources tell me a different story. They tell me that the town is now safe, controlled by the Iraqi army and the coalition forces. I am told that the jail was destroyed during the offensive. I decided to travel to Badoush, and after trying for 2 days, finally I reached the jail, or what was once the jail. Media access to Badoush is restricted. The military is now readying for the offensive to retake Tal Afar, a town west of Mosul. They need to keep their preparation classified, but there is currently no fighting and no danger in Badoush.
It takes nearly 2 hours from the east side of Mosul to the town of Badoush. According to India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, it is to Badoush that the 39 Indians missing in Iraq may have been taken by the Islamic State. Badoush witnessed fierce battles. Iraq's Emergency Response Division had to fight house by house before reconquering it. Iraqi intelligence told the Indian government that the 39 missing Indians were brought to the town's jail.
So this is the road which leads to the Syrian border, basically 100 kilometers. So down to this road you'll meet the Syrian border. And here, what we can see, all this smashed building, this grounded area which is right here, a couple of 100 meters at my left, was the jail of Badoush, the formal jail of Badoush. This was a place which was used by the Islamic State to imprison many people, perhaps to torture them. And now it's completely destroyed. There is nothing anymore we can see. It looks like a flatland. One even has to struggle to find out the structure of the city. And right behind there, those houses we see far away, there are some trees, there is a big cement factory where a huge battle was going on. That's Badoush. That's the village, 16 kilometers from Mosul, where the Indian government got intelligence from the Iraqi government saying that perhaps the 39 Indians were brought there. There is currently no military operation ongoing in the village of Badoush. There is also a military base where US troops are staying along with the Iraqi troops.
It is to this jail located in the middle of the desert close to Syria that the terrorist organization is reported to have brought many foreigners and Iraqi prisoners.
Nearly nothing remains of the jail. The Islamic State used this jail in order to imprison all the citizens who were not abiding by their law, and perhaps what we know is that at a certain point of time the 39 Indian workers were brought inside this.
The town of Badoush is an off-limits area for the media, but it is totally liberated and government forces are in full control of it. This despite the Iraqi government said to the Indian government that Badoush is war-torn and therefore not accessible.
Access to the village of Badoush right now for the media is restricted by the Iraqi army. The Iraqi army is in full control of Badoush. Since a long time they liberated it. There is no ongoing fighting inside the village of Badoush. So perhaps the problem of access is because Badoush contains a major military base, and it is from there that the operation to reconquer the city of Tal Afar, still under control of the Islamic State, will start.
An officer of the Iraqi army spoke to us on condition of anonymity about the situation of Badoush.
What is the situation right now in Badoush?
We have conducted a difficult operation in Badoush at least 2 months back, and since then the city is safe. The Iraqi army is in total control in Badoush. There is a major military base where the Emergency Response Division is currently located.
The border to Syria is closed, and this might give hope to the families of the 39 Indian workers who disappeared. But the Islamic State may have also taken them to Syria to put them to work for the terror group.
Right now, the area perhaps could be accessible when it comes to try to find out where the 39 Indians. Currently, the media are not allowed to go there, perhaps because of the American base and because the small village of Badoush will be from where the operation to reconquer the city of Tal Afar, which is still controlled by the Islamic State, will start. Daniele Pagani and video journalist Martin Aim on the border with Syria, village of Badoush, Iraq, for WION. With the limited information we currently have, it is hard to say what happened to these 39 Indians. Where they have been? What have they done? Are they still all together? Are they alive? Are they in Iraq? Badoush is close to the Syrian border. Perhaps that is where the Islamic State took them. Too many unanswered questions. The Iraqi Foreign Minister Abraham al-Jafari is expected to reach Delhi early the next week, hopefully with more information about the fate of the missing Indians, a part of India lost somewhere in the deserts of Iraq. Thanks for watching.